Hi, I'm Barry Sahajian. This tutorial is about playing chords on bass chords. I wrote a book in the 80s about bass chords, and I came up with several different ways you could actually play bass chords. But to be honest with you, until I actually went out on gigs and started to use these, I realized a sharp distinction that you are definitely limited on what you can do with bass chords. And until you understand that, you will never be able to play them in context and really make it work. I learned that as well. So I'm going to tell you right now some of the things that I learned by taking the bass chords and bringing them onto gigs and seeing what happens. Sometimes it turns out to be a disaster. The first thing I'd like to say, and is a no, is don't try to play chords on bass like you do on the guitar. It doesn't work. It sounds miserable in my opinion. So one of the most important chords that I learned to use, very simple, that has application all over the place, and it works most of the time, but even still, this still has its limitations where it's just not going to sound that well. And that's using tenths. For those of you who don't know what tenths are, they are simply a third up an octave. So, for instance, you have a G, and then you have the third, which is right here. G, A, B. So B is the third of a G chord. So you take that third and you bring it up an octave, and now you have something that really sounds nice. Now let's play the third right close to the root. That sounds miserable. You don't want to use that. So that's one instance where you really need to know where to apply the chords, where they'll work, until it really works for you. So, okay, we have tenths. I'd like to show the fingerings I use because there's 2 or 3 options, and a couple of the options allow you to add other notes. And also, the tone. The tone is important. I mean, if you have a real bassy, boomy sound, chords are not going to work. Or they will work limited, or maybe only when you're playing by yourself. So I am playing chords, for the most part, in this video, to when you're playing in a band, or a duo, trio, quartet, whatever. The tenths work famously all the time, except when you go too low, it doesn't work. I mean, I would say when you're down on the F, it's starting to sound a little muddy. And if you add a guitar and a full band on top of it, you're going to get buried. So I would say right around the G, it starts to sound okay when people are playing, when you're playing in a band, quartet, trio, whatever. And as you go up, it gets more and more clear. So what fingerings to use is the next thing I would like to talk about. I might ask at this time, if you haven't already subscribed, please do that. And if you like the videos and you want to be warned when they come out, as soon as they're finished, hit the bell, drop me a like. And important, I'd like to hear from you. Give me a comment, tell me what you liked about it or didn't like, and what you'd like to see in the future. Thank you. I'd like to talk about the fingerings for the left hand and the right hand, so you can get the most mileage out of using this. So there's 3 options with the left hand, the way I see it, and there is one that allows you the most options. But however, you may find different usages for it, where number 3 and 2 would work better for you. Number 3 is 1 and 3 on the left hand. This is a G chord, so you have index on the 3rd fret of the E string, and you have ring finger on the 4th fret of the G string. Looks like that. And number 2 would be 2, finger 2 on the G, and finger 4 on the B, 4th fret of the G string. Now the most important one, or the one with the most options to me, would be using index finger on the G and baby finger on the B. So you got E string, 3rd fret, index, G string, 4th fret, baby finger. Now the reason I feel that using 1 and 4 on the left hand is the most important one is because you can turn this chord easily. If you wanted to add another note, you can find a major 7th or a dominant 7th quite simply. And I'll go back down to the G to show you. So you have first in baby finger, and then you simply use your ring finger and press down the F sharp right below your baby finger, and now you have a major 7th chord. But major 7th chord way down this low with 3 notes in your chord is muddy. It's very risky to use this. If you were playing with a band, it probably won't work. It'll mud the sound up, and you may get a verbal beating at the end of the set when the band leader says, that chord sounded like crap, don't do it again, and that would end your career immediately with that band playing chords. So you don't want to do that. So I would say, if you're careful, I would start minimum on the 8th fret with a C major 7. That sounds reasonable, but still, it might interfere. If you go up to maybe a D, now it starts to be very clear, and you could technically play this underneath a keyboard and a guitar player, and it would work if they were playing a C major 7th. When you get up around the 12th fret, sounds great. And from then on, it even gets better because you're up higher in an upper register. If you're playing alone, that's another story. You can do whatever you want because you don't have to blend with the other instruments. So, and then we'll try the dominant 7th. And what you do, as you can see, you get your index, you got your middle finger on the G, you got your ring finger on the F 3rd fret, both of these 3rd fret on the E and 3rd fret on the D, and then your baby finger plays the 3rd or the 10th up here. To make this work, I'm kind of digging in closer to the bridge to make it nice and clear. This one, I would say, same thing. Around C is a safe zone, so it would blend with other instruments. And of course, you have to adjust your tone to make it work. You go up higher once again. Then you have the option to, use your thumb and pick alternate picking sort of thing. So that's a beautiful option for the 7th chord. So okay, we've covered the major 7th and the dominant 7th. We haven't touched the minor chord yet. So now we're gonna explore the minor 10th, and that makes a great sound as well. So we're gonna start in G again, just for simple because it's in a place most people understand, and then we'll move it around a bit, and I'll show you how to play a minor 7th as well as just a minor with the 3 notes. So you have two notes. We're playing with tenths, G and a B flat. And you have a couple of options in fingerings. You can play it like this, with 2nd finger on the G and ring finger on the B flat, 3rd fret of the G string. That'll work. But once again, the preferred one would be middle finger and baby finger on 3rd fret of the G string. And then you would be able to throw in your flat 7 by adding the ring finger. Let's look at a sus chord. How will we do that? That's another option. That works very well, and because it's spread out, it isn't so dense, the chord, because you're using, well, we're in E now, so you're using index on the E, the root, and then you're using middle finger on the flat 7, and the interval is spread apart a little, so it doesn't tend to get muddy. And then you have your you have your 4th or the 11th on the top. And because the intervals are spread out pretty well, it doesn't really get that muddy. You go down pretty low with this one too. This concludes the video on bass chords. There's a lot more to come, and as you all know, there's a lot of different ways to play chords to add color to your lines and your bass playing, using harmonics and fretted notes, using tapping chords, using slapping chords. So stay tuned, subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you soon, hopefully, and thanks for stopping by.